Hey guys, the PC guy here with the news in tech and gaming for the week, and Intel has been hitting the news the past week a little bit on different topics, both on their CPU and GPU department, or future GPU department we shall say. The XE has been kind of the talk of the week a little bit in different reasons. First of all, Haji Kaduri was doing some announcements and talks in India, I believe, and he was prepping up the Intel XE as being one of the biggest dies and biggest GPUs out there. Keep in mind, this is probably referring to data center XE GPUs that will probably be the first ones released when they actually go for it. But on the other hand, we have other rumors regarding XE floating around that they are having quite severe efficiency problems, that they are nowhere near the level of AMD or Intel or Nvidia as far as performance per watt goes. And well, obviously, the fact that they seem to be going mostly for data center and not so much for the consumer level at first. There's also rumors that, well, pretty conclusive talk that when they do launch, they will not have AIB partner support from the get-go, so there will only be the reference Intel cooling solutions, etc., and no ASUS, Gigabyte, MSI, etc. variants of the cards. So you're pretty much stuck with whatever Intel does for it on that first generation, and depending on how it goes in further generations, you might have some custom solutions. So yeah, it's not really super encouraging. You probably won't have competitive performance in terms of, actual raw performance, and you probably will not be able to just easily get a better cooling solution for it via a board partner and just overclock to compensate either. So I was kind of hoping for some three-way competition starting next year, but it's starting to look like it will take a bit more for Intel to get there if they ever do. Still, on the Intel camp, it seems that they are getting desperate with their supply problems, and they have taken to resurrecting a 22nm Haswell CPU, the Pentium G3420, which is a dual-core processor with a 3.1 clock speed and no hyperthreading either. They have seemingly taken that one out of the dusty shelves of discontinued products, and they are actually going to be producing them again. This has probably to do with the shortage on 40nm, the lack of success, let's call it, on the 10nm development, and their need to have something out there, at least in the low performance slash budget department. So yeah, strange to see, but I can kind of see where they are coming from with that. AMD, on the other hand, seems to have no shortage of products to launch, even though the stock of CPUs, if you go look and try to actually buy one, says otherwise a little bit on the 39 and 3950X. They seem to be regularly out of stock, at least in some regions, but that does not seem to affect their will to launch out new GPUs, and it seems that we have some information coming out that there will be also a 5600 XT. It has been confirmed apparently by two different AIB partners that this card is indeed real and coming. It's supposed to be coming next year in January, and there's not a whole lot of information about it other than it will be obviously between the 5500 XT and the 5700, and it's supposed to feature 6 gigabytes of DDR6. More than that, we don't really know. There's not a lot of solid information about that, but yeah, one more for the product stack, I guess. Also seems that we have some developments on the X670, so the chipset that will follow the X570 when Zen 3 launches. And it seems that it will no longer be produced by AMD themselves, but by a third party, and it will be focusing mostly on reducing the heat that it produces and the power it consumes, obviously. This is in the current generation because of the introduction of PCIe Gen 4, with it being refined a little bit for next generation. We'll hopefully see a lot of more passively cooled designs like we have been seeing for the past several years. There were a lot of motherboards in the X570 family that relied on a fan to actually cool the chipset. That introduces obviously one extra point of failure for your motherboard. If that fan dies, well, you will need to either get a new motherboard or have it replaced somehow, or get some sort of other heatsink for that. I'm sure there'll be some creative solutions out there sooner rather than later. But in any case, the elimination of that fan in the next generation will eliminate also that point of failure, and it will hopefully also make those motherboards slightly cheaper, because there was a bit of a price hike between the last generation and this one, and PCA Gen 4 was one of the factors of that price hike, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Speaking of the next generation, it seems that the yield of the 5nm process node at TSMC has now surpassed the yield of the 7nm process, which seems to be great news for AMD Zen 4 generation, which will probably be 2021 or 22. And will be on that very same 5nm. So higher yields mean that they will be able to get more CPUs, or well, more and better quality CPUs per wafer per day. So that gives them just more supply to sell and better quality supply, meaning that at the same cost they'll have more product, which hopefully translates into also cheaper prices, depending on how greedy they get with their performance increases to back them up. And while not much is known from AMD's next generations, there was an interview from Thomas Hardware with Mark Papermaster from AMD, and they did pose the question if he thinks that it comes to a point that there's just no point putting more cores in the mainstream platform, and his answer was basically that no, the cores can never be too many. It is mostly a matter of the software supporting those cores, and for the software to be developed utilizing those cores properly, the silicon needs to be there, the chips need to exist to enable that. So it does seem that we won't be seeing a slowdown, at least not just yet, of AMD pushing up the core count and ramping it up. So is it possible that we will be seeing like 32 core mainstream parts in the future, in the near future? Probably. So yeah, so it seems like if you're asking how many cores is the next Ryzen gonna get, the answer is all of them. It was most of the bigger companies, let's call it, tech news for the week. There is a funny little quirky one that I saw, though. There was a Kickstarter that ended yesterday or the day before, I believe, for a hyperdisk, and that was a 45-gram hard drive, smaller than a credit card, that they are being developed, and it does have some quite interesting specifications. In terms of size, like I said, it weighs 45 grams. In terms of the actual dimensions, it's 73 by 42 by 10 millimeters. So, like I said, smaller than a credit card in terms of actual size. And well, relatively to performance, they will be available in 512 gigabytes, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabyte capacities, with read and write speeds up to 1000 Mbps. So this, for an external hard drive for that size, is not bad at all. In terms of actual pricing, I'll have to scroll down a little bit. Sorry about that. But for the people that actually supported the Kickstarter, the prices for the 512 gigabyte would be around $85 US, 1 terabyte 139, and 2 terabytes 230. Keep in mind, this is a relatively new technology, very compact, like you see in terms of the dimensions. So actually would like to see how it actually does and how it performs in practice, and how it handles, for example, heat and that sort of thing, being so compact and so dense. But that will be a question for another time, and it's something interesting to see out there. I don't know when they will be out there for sale, but like I said, the Kickstarter ended yesterday, so we'll have to see if we hear anything interesting about that in the future. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Drop a like and a comment if you have enjoyed this video, telling us what you'd like to see covered in the future, or either on the next news videos or in any other videos. What would you like to see more in the channel? Consider checking the rest of our other content, and subscribe if you would like to see us grow a bit more and be able to provide you with better videos as well. This is Ethic PC Guy. I'll see you guys next week, and have fun in the meantime.